was no shaker. He died naturally, I think. I don't.
Yeah, I remember Ben. Ben was he was a fair man and a straight man, but he didn't take no stuff off of nobody. And one thing that Ben would do, he would treat every man alike. He didn't care what color you were, he didn't care what size you were. He treated you alike. If you treated him right, he would treat you right. Otherwise, then you would have a problem. I was sure when he had that incident down at the market, and what made his name be big as it was when he out of about 100 and some people out there, the man had stole something out the store, so I was told they had stole out the store, and Ben jumped up and shot the man while he was running through a crowd of people and didn't get nobody but him with the first shot. I thought Ben Tucker was bad, but they had some police on at that time they called the backer chew and turkey leg and all that kind of stuff. Man, them cats was really rough. Those cats rolled around with sawed off shotgun, and that was the one that would come up and rough you up some, and Ben Tucker tell them, don't bother that boy no more. Ben Tucker didn't bother them, but those white guys were called the Big Four. And every now and then they have one black guy in there with the Big Four, but the rest of them would be all white. So they told a story that one day about Ben Turpin that his son had violated, and the law went to go get him. He wasn't going to go nowhere because that was Ben Turpin's son. He said, I'm not going. He said, well, I hate to call your daddy because you know your daddy going to make you come out anyway. He said, well, you just call him. He ain't going to make me go nowhere either. Ben went to the door. He said, son, I hate to tell you, you get on my side, I'm coming inside. He said, you coming out? He said, I'm going to count to 3. He said, Ben counted 1, 2. He said, Dad, I'm coming out. Before he counted to 3 because he knew he was going to kick the door coming in. He knew it was going to be trouble when he got inside. He said he caught him in, drug him over, and put him in the police car. So y'all take him on down there. Do what you got to do with him.
Well, I was little then, but I remember Ben Turpin used to come up to date my oldest sister, and we lived on Frederick at that time. And by my mother having 5 girls, we had all kind of guys coming up there to try to date these beautiful 5 girls. And Ben Turpin was sweet on my oldest sister, and her name, we would call her Sue Ella. And when people would see Ben Turpin come up there, everybody would get around the steps and they would say, oh, Mr. Turpin's going up there and he's got 2 guns on his side. And then my mother would feed him dinner. He would come just like as a friend, maybe once every other week or so, and sit around the table and she would feed him and we would all just lollygag and have a good time.
Well, all I know most about Ben Turpin, he didn't bother me. He had a reputation of being pretty hard on the little wrongdoers. Today I think they call them rappers and all like that, but back then they used to call them jitterbugs, and they acted just like a bug, especially these roaches around here. When ever Ben Turpin came on the spot, they'd scatter in every direction because he wouldn't take any guff from them at all. When he'd tell them don't be here, they would disappear. That's what they would do. And he was known as a tough man. That's all it was among policemen. All of these little wrongdoers, male and female, seemed to honor him, or respect him, if that's a better word.
Ben Turpin. Now, to me, he was a race man. Some people said he wasn't. All he wanted and got was respect. He didn't want you cursing around any youngsters or older people. He didn't want you doing none of that. Give him respect. He got respect. He even sponsored a hardball team. But he used to patrol the markets every morning. He'd have on overalls, a jumping, a flop hat, just marching around in there, because we used to go down there as kids and pick up stuff because the Depression was coming on and vegetables would fall off the wagon, we'd pick them up, the people wouldn't, they didn't mind. But Ben was a raised man, I mean, because I've seen him do that. I saw him raid a house by himself once. And his farmer told us about getting away from there. He was cursing us out, and at the time I was about six years old, and might have been 1 or 2 older. But Ben told him leading kids alone. If the farmer, he didn't know who Ben was, but he'd heard about him. Well, then he asked Ben, who was he anyway? So Ben pulled his coat open, he saw the guns, and he got as small as a mouse. He could have went straight through that cement floor.
And this little picture shows them going to the Warfield Theater there. At least they're there in front of the Warfield Theater. I don't think they even have the price of a show. So he's questioning them, wanting to know, what are you doing out here this late at night, see? And they're trying to cook up some cock and bull story. See, they might have slipped out the back door from where they live, so forth and so on. And so this shows some of the features that's going on at the show. And of course the woman at the ticket office, she's a little bit surprised, and herself too, at what's going on, because this is old hat with her. And so Ben Turpin has got his belly and his nightstick and everything. Of course, I don't think he would use it on the kids, no more than just to use it as a prod to punch them along, make them get on back home.
I like the entertainment down there. The entertainment was great. It was much different than it is now. You go in and you could sit down and enjoy the entertainment, or either you had a chance to dance, and people were just friendly, and you could walk in the place, and you didn't have to worry about ducking no bullets and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't violent as it is now. And you would sit down and start talking with people, and next thing you had drinks coming from everywhere. It wasn't that much money, but I mean people was spending it freely, you know. Saturday night, oh man, Saturday night you couldn't even walk up and down the street. You couldn't even hardly find a place to park on Hastings Street on Saturday night. And I mean that was when they downstairs, the bar had to close at certain time. You go upstairs and still the same thing was from downstairs, it was upstairs almost. The bar upstairs looked just as good as the one downstairs. We called it after hour joint. It was just about the same thing. And you had good music, good fun, and everything was good. Everything was going on. And there wasn't a lot of fighting and cutting and shooting and going on. It wasn't like that. It was just people having fun together. You could go from one place to the other, up and down Hastings Street, or go around to the back and go in places where it was fine. Anything that you want to find now. The streets weren't full of drugs. You would find a lot of liquor we were drinking there, but not no drugs flowing up and down the street. There was drugs in the streets, but you had to know somebody really street to get to some drugs at that time. It wasn't like it is now. You can get it off every corner. You couldn't get it unless you know somebody personal to get it from them. Well, we had down in the valley, we had the Horseshoe Lounge, and we had Spoteries and different ones like that. And I know when I first came in 40-something, the bar I never will forget was the Rex Bar up on Russell and Mack Avenue, up in that area, you know. That was up there, Russell, Mack and Hastings. Over in that area, not too far from Joe's Record Shop, was up there, you see me. So that's when I got my northern welcome, right up in that bar. Rex Bar. Well, I mean, that was a lot of places like that could go to was like a mixed crowd. Even when the strip moved off the hot area off of Hastings, it was John R. down there where Maurice King and a whole bunch of people used to play down there. Maurice King used to play at the Flame Show Bar. They built Flame Show Bar, and there was Chesterfield Lounge, and then other lounges down there. Senator Wilson and places like that was booming.
You would see friends you hadn't seen maybe in months, maybe years. Everybody seemed, especially the black people, to meet on Hastings Street. It was always something interesting if you visited Hastings Street. Hastings Street was called for the black populace the main drag. There they had 10-cent stores. They had especially that the hustlers and the gamblers and the ramblers and the pimps and whatever, they had pawn shops. They had pawn shops if a guy or a hustler got a little bit short of money. I'm talking about a male hustler, not the prostitutes. If they got a little bit short, you know, shy of money, then they would take something to the pawn shop. And they would get them a few tips. They were pawn shops. And then there were bars. Well, a Saturday night stroll down Hastings Street was always an adventurous thing for me and whoever I was with. You were sure to run into somebody you hadn't seen in a long time, chew the fat or whatnot. And there was always some character showing out or doing something amusing, but it wasn't something that was detrimental to you, you know what I mean? You weren't afraid to venture down Hastings Street. You'd see people that would be fighting sometimes. They were always lovers' quarrels. A lot of people used to come to Hastings Street that lived in the more sedity type of the city so they could air their differences. They would fight each other, you know. Guy bring his girlfriend to Hastings Street and they'd have a settle a little thing that had been building up all during the week, you know. And it was always somebody you could run into. You could see, very amusing. You see winos and pickpockets or whatever all down there, and prostitutes all up and down Hastings Street. It was always something very interesting to see. Sometimes some guy would be down there playing a guitar or something, you know, and singing some blues or whatever. They didn't have these loud boxes, the boom boxes and things like they have today. They just, what you saw was real.
I was a young girl in my teens then, and I loved going to Hastings Street. I think all of us 5 girls and 3 boys loved going to Hastings Street because it was like a little fun city within a city. We could go up there and get fresh buttermilk with lots of butter on top of it, rich buttermilk. And then we could look down in the fish market and get fresh fish out of the big drums, you know. My mother would send us up there and say, go get me 2 herrings. Well, at that time it was herrings, but now they call it baby whitefish. We would go there and point to the man the fish that we wanted, and he would take them right out of the fresh water. Then I used to work at Gutman Brothers. That was by Henry and Hastings, and that's where I met Mr. Armstrong. He met a $1 million baby in a 5 and 10 cent store, and it was called Gutman Brothers. And from there I went down to Viviano Macaroni Company. That was around Hastings near Forest, and we would package the macaroni and make different shells of macaroni, and I worked there for a couple of years. Then after we leave there, we would go to Barthwell Drugstore, where we'd have Sundays there for lunch and a meeting place for the old sweethearts. And it was just like a fun town.
The unique thing about it, the blacks owned some of the nightclubs along with the Jewish people. And it dealt with only local talent. There was no big talent in those early days of Hastings. Later on, of course, you know, we moved to Paradise Valley. But of course, Paradise Valley was there, but it didn't have the notoriety of what it turned out to be the most successful area for blacks. But Hastings Street had the Dunbar Theater, had the Castle Theater, and we had a place of entertainment and dances up over the cabaret at the Castle Theater. The Dunbar on Hastings Street was formerly a opera house for the Jewish community, and of course they changed it over to a theater. And to my knowledge, we had about 5 theaters. We had the Warfield, the Willis, the Midbury Theater, and a couple of more on Hastings.
The Music Box Bar, the Blue Goose, owned by Roosevelt and B. Lawrence, the Horseshoe Lounge, Booker's Bar and Grill, the Shane Bar and Grill, the 3 Sixes, Dummy George's, that was located on Hastings. We had a bar owned by Hortense and Bill Taylor, Sonny Wilson's.
They used to call it the bandbox where all the musicians would go and play their horn, just like in New York, where they go to Men's Playhouse, where they go to the bandbox on Adams. I mean, it was nightlife and then so forth. I mean, it was, you know, you had a lot of fun down there. And it very seldom there wasn't any head knocking, and once in a while something might happen, but I can't think of any offhand that happened from a kid on up. I mean, you know, it was places to go. I mean, the Mirror Ballroom, where we used to go, but then there'd be a lot of fighting up there. But, I mean, nobody got killed. I mean, you know, they might get cut or whatever, but people fought fair mostly if something come up to that. And then the Paradise opened up. But the musicians would come here from all over. They'd stay down in the valley. And like I said, the bandbox, they'd have them jam sessions down there. Then way later, Berserdi opened up. I mean, J.C. Hurd's brother, he had a band up there. They had a special night where they would play through the, I don't know what night now, it was a night in the middle of the week. But down in the valley, there was something happening there at all times of the night. From daylight, I mean, to dawn, I mean, from sun up to sundown, whatever. It was always something happening in the valley. It was never quiet, never a dull moment, you know. After I got old enough, when I was a kid, I used to sell papers down in there, and I just said, I wish I could go into some of them places. Casino, it had several names. B&C was one, and offhand, but it had several names. They had entertainment in there, live entertainment, because some of the girls, as they got older, that I went to school with, they used to dance in the chorus line there. I have a picture of myself sitting in the booth watching them rehearse. A friend of mine, Earl Fowler, he was a photographer. He was taking pictures of them at Elcino's. I mean, no, it was B&C then.